Alright, so we gotta do the first oil change on the Honda Rancher 420 ES here. It's a 2016 model. It's never had the oil changed. I bought it in 2017, and I just checked. It's up on hours, so it's either so many hours or so many miles, and it's at a little over 20 hours. So we're gonna dump the oil on it. I didn't buy the Honda oil. That's it's not so much expensive as it's just really inconvenient to find a dealer or dealership that's nearby, so I just went to my local store and got motorcycle oil, which is the right classification for the transmission or whatever that uses the oil as well, or the clutches. And then I just went with a Fram Filter, so I'll show you what I got with that. And then we'll kind of just go over the machine a little bit here just to make sure we got all the general maintenance stuff here, check the tires, that type of thing. 20 hours, I wouldn't think there'd be much of anything else we really need to check, so let's get it set up and start taking it apart. Alright, so the oil we're using is this Valvoline. It's 1040. In the book it calls for 1030 is what's recommended, but it also says 1040. And from the videos I've seen on YouTube, the Honda oil they're using, it looks like it's a 1040, so I'm not really sure. I don't know what the difference would be between 1030 and 1040. I might need to change it for winter use, but I'm not going to worry about it. So the biggest thing is it can't be the energy conserving oil. It has to have the right stuff for the clutches or whatever. And this oil says it's designed for ATV, UTV, and then the meets or exceeds the JASOMA. That's the big thing, I guess, for the clutches or whatever in there. So superior wet clutch protection for maximum power transfer and smooth shifting. So I don't know, with the 1040 it may shift a little harder too because the oil's not as thin. But like I said, in other videos that I've seen on YouTube of guys doing this same type of change, they're all using 1040 oil, so I'm not sure why why Honda calls for 1030. You also could use it's a 0W something. I don't know if it's a 40. But there again, whatever. I don't know what this costs altogether. I don't remember. I know this little tiny Fram filter here, this CH6015. This was like $6. It says made in China. That's what the filter looks like, and it comes with the O-ring. I'm assuming that's for the cover or whatever that goes over this filter. So I know you can get a K&N filter too for that type of setup, but again, those weren't easy to come by, so I didn't. And I don't know if the K&N comes with the outer O-ring or not. So yeah, so let's start getting this thing tore apart. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, since it's been sitting out in that shipping container over the winter and stuff, and I don't know how much the battery is charged, I'm going to pull the seat off and back cover off and hook a charger up to it. So the seat, there's just a little lever you kind of lift up here, and that just pops off. And then to access the battery, let's see if you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. So there's a little compartment back here. You're going to want to flip that up, and this comes down. This is your compartment, and then this area here kind of just slides forward, and then your battery's going to be right down in there. So let me go grab the charger and we'll get that hooked up. So here's a better shot. You can see the battery is right down in there, and then all I got on here is just a 1.5 charge. So yeah, it's taking charge right now. Come on here, focus. There we go. So it's just a 1.5 amp slow charge or whatever. So we'll let that kind of charge, and then we'll hop into the rest of it. I'm assuming to access the oil stuff, we're gonna have to probably pull these panels off. The engine is in there somewhere, and I know for checking the oil it has this little icon here in this cover. It gets you to the dipstick and the fill. But yeah, so I think we're gonna pull the covers off. Alright, so to pull the panel off, it looks like we're going to have this little clip here that we got to deal with. And what I'm using is just a straight blade screwdriver. It's a 3/16 tip. And I'm just going to kind of, slide that underneath here and kind of work that clip up so that it releases. But once it's up like that, it should just, pull out together, but there. So that's what it should look like when you get it out. And then, I don't know if this top panel, if that just kind of has like push fasteners that you can just like kind of pop that up and then this comes out, or if this comes out all as one piece. Yeah, this one we won't need to take out because this is on the back side. So let me get the camera set up on the tripod here and we'll see if we can break something. Alright, so the way it looks, that top part doesn't come off. This looks like this whole assembly comes off together. And you can see down in here, there's like a tab that comes up. And then there's just some push fasteners, so I'm going to kind of pull on those. It seems like it's coming. It's a good sign. Come back to this side, kind of the same thing. It's like a push fastener down right back there. And then there's a little tab that sticks up. We can see that once this is off. That should be it then. So it looks like there's a push. Okay, so it's off. Yeah, so that's all one piece. This is one piece. You can't get this off. I don't know if this is a different Honda design, if you can see it or not, but those same push fasteners are underneath here. There's no way of getting to that unless you pull the whole thing off. So I mean, you could take it apart now and they got it screwed in here. So that's how this is supposed to come off, all as one piece. I guess that's kind of a different design. So here's what I was talking about. There was a push one here. Here's where that tab comes up and there's like a slot that kind of holds that panel in. Run it down, there's another push in here. And then right in here there's some slots where these two tabs kind of hold in there. And this would be that top black cover. There was a push pin here. And there's like an alignment tab up on top. And I think that's it. Yeah, and it's the same thing on the other side. You get the same amount of fasteners. So, yeah, I don't know. I washed this off the other day trying to clean it up, but I didn't have these panels off. And you can kind of see there's some sand and dirt in there, but as long as we don't get any of that in our oil, we should be all right. So, yeah, I don't know. We can kind of crack this open. I always like to open these up so that it has maximum flow, and it is popping because I did run it, so it's warm, so that the oil drains quickly. Alright, so on the, if you'd have it the passenger side here, this is going to be where your oil filter is, right in here. And this is notice filter seal faces out. I don't know what that means. Well, I guess we'll know once we take it out. But boy, this looks like a pretty simplistic machine here, doesn't it? There's not much to it. This is your transmission here, and then your the engine sits on top. It's all one compact little unit here. So I know that the air filter or filtration system here, it's like it must grab the air from I don't know where. It obviously comes through this tube, and they must have it set up high enough so that if you are like fording through some water or something, you don't get water in your system. I'm not sure exactly where that intake comes from though, where it's getting it. But, alright, let me grab some tools here. Alright, so like anything, this is always really hard to show unless you have it like up on a lift or something. You're going to need a 17mm socket. I'm just using a small 3/8 drive because there's only supposed to be, I think, 18 foot-pounds on there. Now granted, it always seems like when it comes from the factory it's pretty snug. So, and then to show you where it is, you got a couple holes underneath here. This hole here is going to be where your plug is. Hopefully you can see this because I can't even see with the camera what I'm showing you right now. There should be a plug there. That's what we're going to pull out. So I'll bring this back and then see if we can get this oil dropped. Alright, so I got it cracked loose. It was relatively not tight, so it was pretty good. And there's going to be no good way of not getting oil all over your hands doing this, because there's zero room in here. And I think there's a sealing washer on this as well. Oh, that oil looks like brand new yet. I guess that's good. Oh yeah, there's a little like aluminum washer on there, the way it looks. So we're gonna let that drain. Oops, there you go. Well, that's good. All right, I'll let that go and then we'll go from there. All right, so you probably won't believe this, but I guessed both sizes here. So for the drain plug, I guessed it was a 17 just by feeling it. And then these here, I took a look at them, went over to my small, and I'm just using a 1/4 inch drive just to kind of be the right size for the fastener. And I was like, well, it's not a 10, even though 10 is pretty common. I'm like, I'm gonna guess an 8 because it's either 8 or 10. They usually don't use 9, and that's what it is. So this is just the 8mm. I put down some paper towel because there's no hole here, and it looks like once you pull this off, you're gonna have an oily mess. So don't know what the torques on these are, but I can't imagine them being, yeah, they're not too tight because this is in aluminum. So that's probably why they have a torque spec on everything in the book. Because if you over torque it, you're just going to strip that aluminum out. It's a pretty long bolt. Alright, moment of truth here. Or not. Oh! Yes, definitely oil. This side and spring towards engine. Alright, so there's a little spring in there. That's good to know. Get some, there's O-ring on the case here. Yeah, I don't know, the oil in the filter here looks kind of black or almost green. So, I don't know, we'll kind of inspect this filter and look at the Fram equivalent to see how it stacks up. So while you pull that oil filter out, I would definitely leave the drain plug go, because as soon as I pulled it out, there was a bunch more oil that came out. So I've seen a video where someone drained the oil from the, if you want to call it the pan, and then they put the plug back in and then went to the oil filter. I wouldn't do it that way. I would leave your plug open the whole time that you're pulling out your oil filter here. Anyway, you can kind of see it's more of a greenish color. So, and here's what the filter looks like. It's got some writing on it. Toward filter cover outside, toward engine side. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see any metal or anything like that. I'm assuming because the transmission uses the same oil as the engine, you probably have some break-in, and that's why they want it changed with the transmission or whatever. So here is the new Fram filter. So, and if you look at the pleats, they look about the same. Oops. All right. Oh, come on. Actually, the Fram almost looks like it. The Fram looks like it has more pleats. I don't know what the actual filter media is made of, the actual like material, but definitely just as many pleats. Fram does not have marked which side goes in and which side goes out. but as long as you look at your old filter, that'll get you a pretty good idea. The Honda filter here has like a little metal in here. This is rubber. Oops. Fram has a hole in the middle here. This one does not. So I don't know. I don't really think that's that big of a deal. I know a lot of people get bent out of shape about filters, but they're all in business to do something. It's to sell filters, right? So I don't know why there'd be any reason to pull this spring out if it's in there. And if you do pull it out, I'd probably make sure that you put it back in the same orientation that you took it out, not that you flip it. I don't think that that's that big of a deal. It looks like it just keeps pressure on the filter outward. There must be a hole in here. Yeah, there's a hole towards the back here. So this must be kind of like your supply here where the pump is maybe, and it comes through here, and then there's, yeah, the hole goes towards the back of the transmission here. So, and then I got this. Can I just dump this? So, and then this is your filter cover. The oil is definitely green. I mean, the stuff came out of the pan looks good, but this stuff definitely, it almost is like a hydraulic oil. It looks so green. Weird. So, and there's an O-ring on here. I don't know. I don't see why you couldn't reuse this O-ring that's on the cover here. I think the Honda ones come with this little oil O-ring here and this one, and that's probably why the filter is more expensive, because you're getting those O-rings. I would imagine over time you may have issue with it, but I mean, this first oil change, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I said, I don't think the K&N filter even comes with any O-rings. So, and that K&N is usually like your top of the line performance filter. All right, so we're gonna get it put back together here. I already installed the new O-ring on the cover here. This rubber part on the filter is going like this on that cover. And that's why the cover says filter seal faces out. This is the filter seal. And then the spring is gonna make contact with that. So you just kinda wanna make sure that's in there. Probably make sure that that spring doesn't fall down. That spring should self-center. There we go. That Fram O-ring definitely felt a little thicker than the Honda one. And we should be into place here. Maybe not. Well, we got to be pretty close. Maybe just a little bit. There we go. So it takes just a little bit of effort to push this filter cover in. It would be nice if they used just like a regular canister filter. I don't know. I know we have, I think, 2 trucks at work that use these paper filters for the oil, and it's time consuming. It's not as nice, and it seems to be a little messier when trying to get it out, because you're pulling it from top of the engine to get it out. No, I kind of want to get one of these down so that this doesn't pop back out here. Let's see if we can get this one in here. Now I know, like I said in the Honda book, I think it gives you a torque spec. I know it gives you a torque spec. I don't know what it is without looking it up. I don't know, I probably could get it to look it up. I definitely would not tighten these up with anything more than a quarter drive. And I'm gonna say it's 8 foot-pounds. I don't know, that might be too much. I'm pretty sure the drain plug is like 17 or 18 foot-pounds. Let me get the book, I'll check. All right, so I don't know what I said, but I gotta be pretty close. So it says the oil filter cover, they should be 7 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters, and drain plug should be 18 foot-pounds. So Wait a second. So the drain plug is a 17 millimeter. To remember that, you go 17 foot-pounds would probably be close enough. 18 is what it's supposed to be. The bolts on that oil filter cover are 8 millimeter, and that needs to be 7 foot-pounds. So they're close. I mean, you could probably figure something out to do it. The amount of oil it says it's going to use is 2.9 US quarts, or 2.7 liters. That's why I got three quarts here. So yeah, in the book it shows you that those two O-rings, the one you got on the filter cover and then that little one over here, that gets changed. You discard by removing. But no, I don't. Using the wrong Honda filter or a non-Honda filter, which is not of equivalent quality, may cause engine damage. Well, it's good that it only may cause engine damage, I guess. So, alright, let's get the drain plug back in and then we'll start filling this thing up. Alright, so I just got the plug put back in and we should be good to go. With the plug, I don't have a 3/8 torque wrench, so I couldn't torque it. My 1/2 inch only goes down to 25 foot-pounds. So basically, I turned the plug up until it made contact, so I couldn't turn it by hand. Then I put the wrench or plier ratchet on it, and you know, just so that it moved a little bit, and that was it. Like, I didn't try to go 1/4 or even 1/8 of a turn. That's too much. You know, 18 foot. Same thing with the little bolts or the little screws, machine screws on the other side. Those for 8 foot-pounds with a little tiny 1/4. Once they make contact, you know, just try to move them. That's probably enough. Better to keep them a little loose than too tight, and just kind of keep an eye on them. So like I said, this is 1040 4-stroke ATV UTV Valvoline oil. That's the right specifications, and we're just gonna fill this thing up and hopefully it'll work after we get it all done here. Alright, so I kind of haphazardly dumped those 3 quarts in. I didn't try to get every last drop out of each quart just because it only takes 2.9. So I figured that's got to be pretty close. I'll let what we got left in the funnel there kind of drain down because it is a thicker oil. And then we're supposed to run it for a couple minutes, I think 5-10 minutes, and then you're supposed to let it sit before you check it. So we'll do that whole procedure here in a second. I'm gonna get the thing buttoned back up. I'll put the shields back on, and then we'll run it a little bit and go from there. Alright, so I got it all, well, mostly buttoned up, the side shields. What you may want to do is just kind of double check before you take anything off, like what type of gap you have here, because now to me it looks like this isn't sitting down far enough. But it can't come down any further because of those pins. Like, maybe that's just how it was. I know the top ones are in, and then to see that one that's back down in here, it's really hard. You got to take a flashlight and you got to use 2 hands to kind of come up from the bottom and the top to hold and to line this, because these panels are flexible. Same thing with the one back here, and then that tab that sticks up that goes in that slot. You can kind of see it down there. That's kind of a pain too. So, you know, both sides kind of look the same, so either I got it wrong or that's the way it was. You got a gap down here too on this one where those tabs stick through the slots. It's in, but I don't know, I can't get it to come down any more than that. And like I said, maybe that's just the way it is. This was a pretty cheap 4-wheeler in the grand scheme of things when you're looking at ATVs and whatever. Now they're what I would consider a price of a new car, but this one was very economical. So the tires too, I was going to check the air on those. Those are supposed to be like 4.7. What's unique about this tire is it doesn't say anywhere on this tire how much air pressure it's supposed to have. It gives you a maximum, what does it say? Maximum PSI for mounting. So when you're actually, yeah, do not inflate beyond 35 PSI when seating the bead. So it gives you that, but it doesn't tell you how much the tire is supposed to hold. So it's either 4.5 or 4.7 PSI. It's not much, and they give you a special gauge, because there again, I don't think my automotive gauge goes down that low. Maybe it does, but that's kind of an odd amount. So luckily they give you some of those, I don't know if you want to call it specialty tools to check that stuff. I'm surprised my battery's not fully charged here yet. It's still on the yellow. It goes to green once it's fully charged. So I think we'll set it up. Well, actually, we can check the air filter, I guess, since we're here. There should be really nothing wrong with this because, like I said, there's only 20 hours on it, very few miles. So that's what your filter looks like. I think it's like a pre-oiled type filter. It looks like there's some oil on it. Yeah, that looks fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And it's easy enough to get to by taking the seat off. That's probably the easiest thing to check on this thing is the air filter. So, all right, let me get the camera on the tripod and then we'll start this thing up. All right, so we'll key it up here. So, I don't know if there's a oil gauge on there. It looks like there's a check engine and a temperature. You can see on the display to the right of the 0 there's a little wrench. We'll have to figure out how to reset that. That's just basically an internal timer for your maintenance or whatever. So, alright, let's give it a start here. I don't know, seems like it's fine. It doesn't seem to lurch as hard as what it did before. When you put it in either forward or reverse, the thing would really want to lurch ahead. I don't know, maybe that's the 1040 oil compared to whatever they had in there, I don't know. So, alright, well I'm going to let that get charged up and then I'll take it around a little bit here once I got it charged up and we'll go from there. Okay, so the procedure for checking the oil, and this is anytime you want to check the oil, it says to let idle, not drive, idle for 3 to 5 minutes. If the temperature is below 50 degrees, then you're supposed to let it idle for 10 minutes. And then you shut it off, and then you're supposed to wait 2 to 3 minutes. And then you're going to remove the dipstick, wipe it clean, and then you put the dipstick back in without turning it on the threads. So I'm kind of impatient here. I haven't waited the 2 to 3 minutes. And this engine is definitely warm because I've been riding it around. So I'm just going to wipe it clean here. And it's going to be really hard to see because obviously this oil is very, very clear. Kind of dip it back in again. And yeah, it looks good. It looks like it might not be all the way to the top of the crosshairs, but there again, if it's warm and that oil is coming from the top of the engine down back into the pan, it's probably alright. So I wouldn't worry about it. I think we're good that way. I can check it at a later date too, so I can throw this cover back on. Also, I did check some other panels on this thing, and that's just the way it is. The fit and finish on this thing is not so good, because when I put this back panel back in, you can see here there's a huge gap there, and here it's tighter, and this doesn't come back any further than what it does. So it's a toy, so that's kind of the way it is. A couple things in the book here. So here it shows you the oil specifications, and it says somewhere that 1030 is what's recommended. I don't know where I saw that it was written in here. But it shows you the different grades. So it's a 0W30, that must be the synthetic, 5W30 can be used, and then 1030, 1040 is at the top of the scale. So there again, if I get into that -10 temperature, I should probably switch to oil. That would probably help it crank a little quicker. Maybe that's why it wouldn't start during the winter months. And then there's that JASO T903 standard, and then MA is the type of oil that I got. So it's got to be that because it uses those wet clutches, or a wet clutch setup. This is just the procedure about the checking the oil or whatever. And then here's the initial maintenance and the maintenance interval setup. So the first time it's going to go off is 100 miles or 20 operating hours, whichever comes first. And then it resets itself, and it's every 600 or 100 operating hours. I think it's based on time too. It's probably like once a year if you don't hit one of those two. Yeah, looks like it. So we're gonna reset that little wrench. All right, so to reset it, it says we're gonna hold this button down while we turn the key on. Keep holding. It's gonna flash or something, and it should be off. Oh, that was it. Well, that's easy. So it flashes twice, I guess, and then it goes off. I'm gonna scroll through here the rest of the stuff. So yeah, it's only got 71 miles on it. That's our temperature. And we got 20.8 hours. And oh, that's 600 miles to our next maintenance there. It's got the little one by the wrench. 100 hours. So yeah. Okay, so one last thing. I'm not going to take the tires off or anything like that and rotate, just because, like I said, there's not enough hours on it. But this is the little gauge they give you for checking the air pressure. We're just going to put that on and see what we get here. I don't know if we can get it to go without leaking here. Alright, so there's the pressure gauge. So you can tell it looks like it's at 4 psi, so it needs another half a psi to be where it needs to be. So I'll do that, and then that should be it with this. That's going to be the oil change here, and this is your 2016 Rancher 420 ES ATV.